Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Flesh Wound Farce, where we discuss and review your and our favorite comedy films. This is the world's first and only combination trivia host and professional wrestling announcer of Chilean descent that currently resides in Southern California, Ozzy V. And with me, as always, on this program, first in the Northern Bay Area is Greg. How are you doing, Greg?
I am great, Ozzy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Todd, producer Todd, how are you?
I'm doing all right, Ozzy. Seems like you're in peak form tonight.
Peak? That's an interesting choice of words. Peak.
Maybe so excited to even have like a super kick party.
Oh, man, you are funny, Greg. You are funny. But something else that was funny was this sequel to the original Coming to America. Now, before we get to that discussion, I do have this our commercial segment where last week we saw Eddie Murphy in a Japanese Toyota Celica commercial. And this week we will show Arsenio Hall in a 1-800-COLLECT commercial. Now, I don't normally say what the commercial is about beforehand, but I just need to explain, just in case there's any viewers or listeners out there that are saying, what's 1-800-COLLECT? And that will be, that's a collect call to be made on a payphone. Now, I know I just said two things that blew your mind. Collect call is a call you can make without inserting any money to the payphone, right? And the payphone is a device that you would put a coin in to make a phone call. So there's
Should we explain coins? That's
no coins. Coins are the things.
Not yet.
Coins are the things you get back when you give somebody $1 and they give you some like what you think game piece tokens might be. Those are coins. All right, Todd. Let's see some Arsenio Hall and 1-800-COLLECT.
Hey girls, why so glum?
And you are?
Come in. I'm the 1-800-COLLECT advice guy. Talk to me.
Well, we did do some excellent shopping. Manicure, pedicure, 2 cups of 7 color. And a henna tattoo.
So?
We're out of town and out of cash.
Call Daddy. He'll wire you more. Use 1-800-COLLECT and save him $1 or 2. He'll think you're responsible.
Yeah, excellent. Hey, which color? Mauve or dirt?
Oh, you're on your own there. 1-800-COLLECT. Save $1 or 2.
All right. So for those listening to the audio version of this program, if you will, we first saw these two, assuming to be maybe 20-something, late teen females, on a shopping spree, and they need to reach home. And all of a sudden, Arsenio Hall is there, sitting on a couch that's on a fountain. And he introduces himself as the 1-800-COLLECT advice guy, says, hey, call him Collect and save him some money because they're long distance, they're out of cash, and he needed to wire him some more money. So he offers, call Collect. And I just literally couldn't get over why and how is this couch in the middle of a fountain? And he's completely dry as well.
Friends was a big thing. So I know it may not be the right time because we are still getting over, a pandemic and such. But after watching Coming to America and then seeing Coming to number 2 America and watching this commercial, I didn't know that whiteness was contagious.
Well, that's fair. Todd?
That commercial's so 90s. I mean, I never actually used 1-800-COLLECT, so I don't know how effective that ad campaign was.
Were you a 1-800-CALL-ATT kind of guy?
No, I was the
because those were the George Carlin ones.
Yeah, I'd call Collect and just say call me or whatever.
Right. Don't say your name. Yeah. Just tell them you're ready to be picked up.
Yes, thank you.
That's what it was.
See, Ozzy knows exactly what it is.
Yeah, no. I'll call Collect, but then I'll just say I'm ready to be picked up.
Atta baby, it's a boy.
Right. Okay, now moving on to this main event that is Coming to America. This now on Amazon Prime film rated PG-13 with a runtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes. And there is an end credit scene at the very, very end. So be sure to watch that. Now, a quick synopsis from the Amazon Prime, which is where it is exclusively available, reads: Akeem and Semi are back, set in the lush and royal country of Zamunda. Newly crowned King Akeem and his trusted confidant Semi embark on an all-new hilarious adventure that has them traversing the globe from their great African nation to the borough of Queens, New York, where it all began. That's a little deceptive. I think it's fair to say that while they did go to Queens, it wasn't the majority of the film. Most of it was set in Zamunda, which I thought was cool.
For our horror fans, that would be Jason Takes Manhattan, where he's on a boat 90% of the time. So,
well, there you go. So there's about, I think about it, 20, 25 minutes of any scenes in Queens. But one of the, there was a ton of cameos that were all front loaded in the movie. It seemed like that they wrote a lot of the comedy, and maybe the comedy had to do with the high points that you were seeing these cameos for the first time, which what we're going to do is, I think we'll talk about the movie, then we'll have a little time at the end that's some spoilerish stuff. So that way, anybody that wants to see it and be surprised, you can cut this off early. We'll let you know when to cut it off. And if you want to just hear us talk about the spoilers anyway, or you want, we'll talk about that afterward. Todd, do you have something to say about that?
I was going to say, yeah, we have a spoiler graphic for the bottom. We're ready to go.
Oh, perfect.
Excellent.
Okay. Now, but again, saving that for the end, I'll let you know. But what I can say is it was fun to see these cameos, and there was a lot of comedy or a lot of the jokes that were more towards the beginning, where the end, I felt it was more like the first 45 minutes were really funny. And then the rest of it delved into the story, which I didn't mind. You know, there's some points when we talk about how I would rate this X as a comedy and X as a movie. Because I felt there was some point where it kind of split, where I'd say it's more of a good movie versus a good comedy like the original. But I don't want to get into my favorite line or scene just yet. Greg, initial thoughts?
You know, I'm really glad you said that, because that is very much so how I felt about this. You know, as a movie, I thought it was a better movie than the first one. As a comedy, it was not a better comedy. But overall, like, this was a really fun movie. I just want to know if Wesley Snipes knew that this movie was being released around tax time.
There's a reason he's making it.
This is their second movie together too, because he was also in Dolomite Is My Name.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Jokes were kind of front heavy. It's also kind of like part of the new trend of a nostalgia sequel that we don't really need or want at this point, which is fine. You have Bill and Ted's another one. I think this works better as that if you're already a fan of the original. Otherwise, I don't know. I can see people not loving this one like the first one. But I do agree, structure-wise, it is more of a movie, where I said the first one just kind of was choppy and had, like, the end is just so abrupt.
Right.
It was definitely intended to be a comedy first. That's what the studio was paying for at the time. Now, I'm sure Amazon or Paramount released it. It was just like, hey, you know, just continue the story, you know. So that's why they probably loaded it in the beginning with so many jokes, cameos, so that way you can already be in a good mood for the rest of the film. Yes, Todd.
Can we do a favorite cameo? I kind of like to hear that from everyone.
Let's save that for the very end. We'll save the favorite cameo for the very end. But I will talk. I can say my favorite line without spoiling anything. And this comes in a scene where the discussion of a absent father is brought up, and this person talks about how there's been scientific studies. when asked which studies. He said, well, Bill Nye, science guy, said it. And then your guy, Neil deGrasse Tyson, said it. And the reaction was so amazing that I not only did I get dizzy and start seeing spots, but I had to go back and watch it again because it was just that reaction of like, okay, there it was. All right, hopefully there's not any more. Like, oh man, I loved that. Just that moment. Greg?
I'm pretty sure I can make this spoiler free. It's not the line that said, but the facial expression and the motion after the line that involves pumpkin pie. I laughed so hard at that moment that it was brilliant. And I wonder if that was an improv moment, because I don't know how often that's allowed these days, improvisation, but I truly feel that motion was improvised.
would not surprise me.
Yeah.
Todd?
Well, I don't have like a favorite line, but just like the first one, I don't know. This just must be the bit I love. I love all the barbershop stuff.
Oh, man.
Right.
I was dying.
Yes, the barbershop individuals are back, and
that's not a
Didn't
spoiler.
lose a
They're
step.
in the trailer.
Yeah, didn't lose a step. It was hilarious to see the three of those again, and also great to see Arsenio Hall take on another role that I didn't realize was him until I saw the credits.
Oh, really?
So, oh man, brilliant. But when it gets to the rating, as I mentioned, I'd rate it this as a comedy, this as a movie, and for laughs, I'm really kind of between like a 3.5, because it was all in the front and then more story at the end. But as a movie, as like an actual just, sit down, just relax, watch movie itself, I'd say a 4 for a movie itself, but more like closer to 3 or 3.5 for a comedy. Greg?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd go with 3 for comedy. There wasn't a lot of it. There were a few great moments, but yeah, comedy wise, I'd go 3, and I agree with you at the 4 as a movie. It was a lot of fun. It brought back some great nostalgia. I really enjoyed it. I definitely didn't walk away. I saw a few people posting, they didn't like it, but I don't get it. So it was a lot of fun.
Nobody should expect the original. And we're not going to get another Godfather 2. Ever.
Yeah, and
it's never going to happen.
I heard he purposefully made it PG-13 versus going R again.
And I know some people were like, never like when that happens. But one thing I do want to say, like the only thing that you really were missing, because even language wise, it's not super F-bombs in the first, but the nudity is the only thing that's really missing. And it's not a huge, if that's the difference between an R and a PG-13, make it PG-13. Not that I'm against nudity, but I'm just going to stop.
That's actually, well, no, it's funny you bring that up, because that's actually my sister's rule with her kids. When I ask her, like, hey, so what kind of movies are you letting watch? Like, because she asked about it, what's a Thanksgiving movie? And I brought up Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which we also talked about here. And I asked her, I said, well, but it is rated R. So how are you when it comes to that? She's like, basically, if there's no nudity, I'm fine with it. So words don't matter, because her kids know, like, you don't say what they say or else there'll be consequences. But nudity is her only, like, deal breaker. So when it comes to PG-13 and R, that might be a pulse on the nation. I don't know.
That's actually probably the only difference between R and PG-13 at this point.
That's what it feels like. Or I still need to see an F-bomb filled scene as we did in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, because that was the only scene that got it the R rating.
Yeah,
was because of that one scene. So it'd be interesting to see. Maybe we'll write a movie that's mostly PG-13 just to include one F-bomb scene and see what it gets us, and then we'll just cancel the movie. So, Todd, sorry, your rating, because we got it from Greg. We got to get it from you.
I'm actually a 3 for the comedy also, but I'm a 3 for the movie itself. While I had fun with it, it is super predictable, so I can't really go much higher on that one, but it's still a good time.
When we get to the spoiler part, I do want to talk about that because I personally felt like I knew where it was going. And granted, it is still pretty predictable, but it didn't go the way that I thought.
Okay, so are we ready? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you decide to leave at this point, so that way you are not spoiled by this movie, have a pleasant week. Hope you enjoy the movie. That's Greg. That's Todd. I'm Ozzy. And now we move on to our spoiler segment.
Okay, so this is it. This is your spoiler warning. If you do not want to be spoiled, leave now.
Warning, warning. This is a spoiler alert. This is a spoiler alert. Warning, warning. This is not a test. All right, so...
You know we have an actual graphic now, right?
Yeah, but I still wanted to say it.
Well, it's probably going to get looped into it, so I would needed that.
Well, perfect. Holy cow. So the first one that blew my mind was the Morgan Freeman narration. And then when he was actually there, it was like, oh shit. Like, well, yeah, fuck yeah, why not? That was great to see. But what was really cool, because at the end of the day, when you look at it, you know, they had Leslie Jones, they had Tracy Morgan, Colin Yost. It had like this like an old school, like old Saturday Night Live cast member, you know, hey, that connection felt there. A lot of connection there. It was cool to see.
Other comedians. So that's normally, what they've done before. We even got another Louis Anderson.
That was great.
It was so good to see him.
Yeah. Louis Anderson and the whole McDowell's in Zamunda is just, and then just like they did that joke in the first movie and they brought it back for the second, but the McFlurry and McFlurry line that made me laugh. And he's the first time, I got to be honest, I saw John Amos. Todd, do you know if it's Amos or Amos?
It's John Amos.
John Amos. Yeah, everybody saw him in Good Times, but I really remember him at Die Hard 2. Like, that's the guy from Die Hard 2. So when I see him talking about him, about ice cream and his, selling this like the moon, because I don't know what's the last thing he did. Oh man, that was. And
that it's not McDonald's because that machine worked. So
that's true. But in terms of other cameos, Colin Yost mentioned earlier, that was the one. It was great to see him as the grandson to Randolph and
Mortimer,
Duke and Duke,
right?
Duke and Duke. Seeing them being his grandkid was hilarious, and
there you go. That's my favorite cameo in the film, the painting.
The painting.
I popped hard good. For that one.
That was fun to see. And Vogue and Salt and Pepper, and seeing that was like so.
No Cinderella.
Fun to see.
Salt and Pepper was the one that I was just like, yeah, way to dig deep on that one. So, and the one that I was hoping for, kind of. I'm glad they went the way they did, but for a split second, I thought the band at the end of the movie was going to be more Stay in the Time, possibly, but they did a much better choice. Yes. And when I've really thought about it, I was like, oh, of course.
Yeah, they would have to. So when it comes to spoilers in terms of the story, it pretty much went exactly how I thought it was going to go. Like from when you saw the conflict, you thought X, Y, Z, and that's what it happened. But at the end of the day, what's a lighthearted movie supposed to do? Just tell a cool story. And, that's what it did.
I agree with you. Like, it does make sense. It's very straightforward. But I thought, I could have sworn, because in the very beginning, when he first meets who is to be his sister, looks like they have a little bit of a connection or something's going to happen where like she doesn't like him and such. I thought the way the story was going to go was that he thought that was his son. It didn't end up being his son. They did like a DNA test, find out it's someone else, and then he was going to end up marrying her, and then they both end up becoming royalty later.
That actually ran through my head, but I wasn't like thinking that was what we would do, but I did. It did cross my mind.
I did think she would be the one to take the whiskers from the lion, and that would be the reason as to for him to change the rules. But it was cool to see her and the two sisters in that fight scene.
Yes,
that was cool to watch. And so I can't think of anything spoiler-ish. I mean, you had we mentioned Morgan Freeman in there. I can't think of any others. Is there any that we missed?
No, not that I can think of. I can.
I wouldn't say a spoiler, but I loved that. There's one girl, I forget the name. My wife brought her up, but one of the Flower Petal girls, who's I guess doing a lot of stuff nowadays, ended up coming back to reprise her role as the same Flower Petal girl, and it was great that they were so true to most of the cast.
I see. Yeah.
Except for one person, which I was very surprised, and there's actually a petition out right now to get him edited into the movie. But why was Cuba Gooding Jr. not getting his haircut?
That would have been funny. That did run through my mind. Right.
That ran through your mind?
Yeah, because that's like that's Cuba Gooding Jr. in the getting his haircut.
I remember.
Okay.
maybe they could have had him leaving as he was approached, because if they had him getting another haircut, it would have been like
Yeah, I get that too.
But I that didn't even.
But you know what? I don't even know how many people realized it was him in the chair
back then.
Yeah.
Right. But still, well, overall, fun to see, fun to watch, just a fun time. Give yourself a treat. Coming to America, the sequel, I approve to watch. Just temper your expectations in terms of a comedy and just expect a good movie. There.
Yep. 100% agree.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be back next week with a new episode. And normally we've said what we are going to talk about before we release. Oh, that's right. So next week, in honor of the Snyder Cut Justice League coming out, and in honor of the Avengers coming out on PlayStation 5, it's a comic book week. So we're going to watch and review Mystery Men. It'll be my first time watching. I've always wanted to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. I've always wanted to watch. I never got around to it. So in the superhero theme of next week, that's going to be the film of choice. Mystery Men, I believe 1998 release date. Usually this is the point where Todd, checks.
Well,
but I don't mean to say that's his job. I mean, that's just to say what he normally does.
I normally do. You sounded so confident. I didn't even.
I think it was 1998. I could be wrong. Might be 2000.
No.
It might be 2000.
Are you looking too?
I think we should just end this.
It's 99.
Oh, it's between it. 98, 2000, 99. Okay, so Mystery Men next week. That's Flesh Wound Produce. Oh my God, I'm sorry, Todd. What are you guys doing on Flesh Wound Horror? What's coming out?
We got the big 500th episode on the 24th this month. Still this month. There's always room for Giallo, named by Ozzy. I don't know, a bunch of reviews, and yeah,
check it out. So that's Flesh Wound Producer Todd. That's Greg. And I'm Ozzy V, and we'll see you next week right here on Flesh Wound Farce.